But we're heading south to Dingle, which is a place of near mythic fame, and yet it's not crowded. Sticking out from the southwest tip of Ireland, it claims the westernmost point in all of Europe. Dingle is remote and peaceful, and particularly the north shore of Dingle is even more remote than you could imagine. We're staying here in a bed and breakfast in the tiny village of Clahan, which is on Brandon Bay. The more famous town of Dingle is on the south coast of the peninsula, over the Connor Pass, and we'll be getting there later in our travels, but for now we're enjoying this idyllic rural retreat, a microscopic village of Clahan. There's several pubs and there's several bed and breakfasts, so if you arrive here, you will be most welcome and most comfortable. You can spend a few peaceful days watching the sheep graze, or you can do some vigorous hiking, or in our case, visit the local pub. Here you'll always find some tasty stout and some warm, friendly conversation. It's pretty good.
This is my annual holiday, and it's Dingle, and this peninsula is one of the most beautiful in the country, and we heard about this region, and we just wanted to come down and explore it and see what it was like. I've been in Dingle before. I've been in the other part of the peninsula, but not in Clahan. And this is quieter, and it's quite beautiful.
Now, if you could tell us, why do travelers like to come here? What's the attraction of the area?
Peace and quiet and tranquility, as well as the scenic beauty of the area.
Because Kerry is the kingdom.
If you look above the door, you'll see that there are but two kingdoms in this world: the kingdom of God and the kingdom of Kerry. This area is one of the hidden beauties of the world. We don't blow our trumpet loud enough, I suppose, and therefore the crowds don't come here. They haven't heard about it. We like to keep it reasonably quiet, and we just cope with the numbers that we get.
Mm-hmm. Which is enough.
Which is enough, yes.
And having enjoyed the peace and tranquility of Clahan for a week or two, or in some cases 3, people, their batteries seem to be recharged and they're ready to face back to city life again for another year, and most of them tend to come back.
So now, tell us the name of your place in the area, would you?
The name of the establishment is O'Connor's Guest House, and the name of the village is Clahan.
Clahan is in the western end of the Dingle Peninsula, County Kerry, Ireland. It's a little village at the foot of Brandon Mountain in a very scenic area. The area is renowned for its beaches, its fishing, and especially its walks. There is a wide variety of walks in the area, ranging from very simple scenic walks to the much more difficult and exciting walk which will take you across the summit of Brandon Mountain. And further on, 2 kilometres on, is the village of Brandon. Now in these villages, in Clahan for instance, you have 2 pubs and a restaurant close by.
We run first-class B&B here in Clahan, and everybody is ensured of a warm welcome.
Instant family waiting for you.
Sometimes people are able to find these things.
Really? Oh, that'd be great. Sure.
In the village is a 13th century Christian church, and on the west wing of this church is the head of the pagan god Crown Dove. And it's an extraordinary mix to have the pagan and Christian cultures side by side. Now this is the remains of a 13th century Christian church, and here on the west wall is the head of the pagan god Crown Dove. And it's quite an enigma as to why a pagan god should appear on the wall of a Christian church.
Mr. and Mrs. Brosnan were the perfect hosts at their charming little bed and breakfast here in Clahan on the north shore of the Dingle Peninsula. Not only did they take care of us and feed us a delicious breakfast, but Mr. Brosnan took us around town, as you see, and showed us the local sights, including the old historic church. This is typical of treatment that you'll enjoy when you stay at the bed and breakfasts of Ireland. And the price is very reasonable. Typically it'll cost you about 20 Irish pounds, which comes to about $30 American for a double room. That's for 2 people with breakfast included. It's a great way to see Ireland, and we'll be seeing a lot more of Ireland in the rest of our season.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to another interesting journey with World Traveler. This is Dennis Callan for the Hawaii Geographic Society, taking you to Ireland. Here you see one of the lakes of Killarney, some of the ancient stone ruins on the western rugged edge of Ireland and the Dingle Peninsula. And we'll be taking you down to Killarney, very popular tourist center, and further down south to Kinsale, small village famous for its gourmet restaurants. Starting our tour in the town of Dingle. This is a very picturesque and colorful town on the far west coast of Ireland. It's a sleepy kind of place. It's a typically picturesque Irish village, nice and neat and tidy. But the real attraction of Dingle, you'll find, is the surrounding area. Within a few minutes' drive, you're at the edge of the waterfront, and beyond that, you're in the countryside almost immediately. And within an hour, you can drive all the way around the Dingle Peninsula to the other side of Slayhead. Or it might take you a little more time if you just want to go slowly and casually and stop and see the sights. Dingletown makes an excellent base of operations for seeing all the attractions of the area, for there are many bed and breakfasts in town, and there's quite a few excellent restaurants. And of course, friendly Irish people ready to help you out, as you'll find in this Tourist Information Center, where she actually draws a map by hand rather than handing one out.
Street here in the car, take a second left down Green Street, turn left at the end of Green Street, and at the roundabout turn right. That'll bring you into the harbour here. You can inquire at the pier here with the boats. Or if not, you can just, turn right outside the door and walk straight down here.
That's fine. Okay.
You'll find it very easy to get information about attractions and restaurants and accommodations from offices like that are located in nearly every sizable village in Ireland. And now let me tell you a little about this ruins. Here we are in Dunbeg Fort. This is on the coast of the Dingle Peninsula, and it's a Iron Age fort which was built sometime between 500 BC and 0 BC. Very typical of the Celtic fortresses of the Iron Age. It's built right up against the edge of the cliff, so it was easily defended from the ocean side because of the cliffs, and this huge massive stone wall is part of the defensive system of this fortress, Dunbeg Fort. These kinds of massive fortifications are scattered throughout Ireland, which shows that while the history of Ireland may have been relatively peaceful compared to its continental neighbors, there were certainly battles and wars fought throughout the land. In particular, against the invasions of the Vikings in the 8th century and the 9th century, and then later on the Spanish invaded, and of course the British invaded Ireland in various political and insidious ways as well as military ways. But despite all this, it's been a calm and peaceful land for much of its history. And we're lucky today that that history is still quite visible on the surface of the landscape in the form of these ancient prehistoric stone ruins. In particular, Dingle is most famous for its collection of beehive huts. These were houses for people. They're called beehive huts because of the form they take, not because bees lived inside. People lived in here. It's kind of small and snug by our modern standards today, but in the ancient days, perhaps 500 years ago, this was quite a comfortable dwelling place. Even today, there's a fair amount of controversy over the nature of these homes. Were they for the monks, for the holy religious order, or were they just homes for the farmers, for the extended families, several generations living together under one roof? Ireland is justifiably proud of its tradition of monasteries and monks and the scholarly tradition that was carried on throughout the Dark Ages in Europe through the 7th, 8th, 9th centuries. Ireland had quite a literary monastic movement that transcribed many of the ancient Latin manuscripts and texts and preserved them for Western knowledge. By calling them monks' houses, it keeps the tourist admission money flowing into the young gatekeeper's hand. What are these huts?
They're prehistoric houses.
They're prehistoric houses?
Yeah.
And who lived in them?
Monks. Monks.
Monks? So how many beehives are up here, do you know?
There's about 400 in this area, just along here.
400 huts.
Yeah.
And so who lived in the beehive huts?
Sorry?
Who lived in the beehive huts?
There were monks that lived in the beehive huts, just up to about...
Monks. Well, the tour guide seemed to agree these were homes of monks, and perhaps they were. But then again, perhaps they were just ordinary dwelling homes. After all, this is a style of beehive dome house construction that's been found for thousands of years, dating all the way back to ancient prehistoric Greece. As we admire the scenic view at the tip of Sleigh Head, we've reached the western end of the Dingle Peninsula, and we're on our way to speak with a local historian who's going to take us on a walk through the fields and point out some of the various other historical sites. And by the way, his opinion is the beehive huts were just the homes of ordinary people. Even today, it's a farming economy here. It seems that little has changed over the last 500 years. There's a very slow and relaxed pace of life out here at the western tip of Sleigh Head, and this is the western tip of Europe. This isolation has much to do with its calm serenity and also with the good state of preservation of its historic remains. We're very fortunate today to be with Mr. Dennis O'Connor, a local historian from the Dingle Peninsula, who's going to be taking us around and showing us some of the archaeological sites. We'll be looking at the beehive houses and some of the very special ancient churches and stone walls and unique features that are found here on the Dingle Peninsula on the remote west coast of Ireland.
This stone, I believe, marks the site as a Christian site, signifying that it was a holy place. Well, it was an early Christian site. It was one of the earliest sites in the whole of Ireland. Christianity had only just been introduced to the country. This was about the 5th, 6th century, almost the time of St. Patrick.
One of the more amazing prehistoric structures in Ireland is called the Gallerist Oratory. It's an ancient stone church made with no mortar at all. The stones are just piled one on top of the other, and they've been standing here for approximately 1,200 years. It's really a remarkable structure.
Well, it's the most famous one in the whole of Ireland, I'm sure. You have the church in almost perfect condition. You saw the beehive huts built on the corbelling system. You had one row of stones overlapping the one underneath until they finally came to a point. They would have presumably have come here on Sundays and feast days, just as an early parish church serves the community today, but a much smaller community. It wouldn't have been a very large population because plagues that decimated them, wars, or infant mortality was great and that kind of. So the number in any site like this wouldn't have been too large. You had a subsistence economy. They just provided the necessities for living, utilized all the resources. The community would have lived in a settlement like this. They had the mountain. They used the mountain and the rough pastures for grazing. The more arable part would have provided the crops, the oats and the barley and the wheat, down to the seashore. had four generations, and all their relatives, what survived, what numbers of them survived. They would all have lived in this enclosure. This would have been the habitation and work site. And the consecrated area here, this was the church. See this building over here?
Sure. So here we have the remains of a typical family compound from Bronze Age Ireland, dating back, say, to the year 500, 600, 700 AD. They were a farming people, lived off the land, and they didn't waste their resources. They lived in a remarkable state of equilibrium, something we might learn from them in this modern day and age of waste and disposal. The people were close to the land, and even today, you'll find the residents of Dingle are largely farmers and fishermen, working in agriculture, and of course working somewhat in the tourist trade. It is, as you can see, such a beautiful place. The scenery is so classic that several Hollywood films were made here, including the recent Far and Away with Tom Cruise, and David Lean's Ryan's Daughter, which was filmed in Dingle. Once again, a view of Dingle town with farmers heading out to their fields. As we prepare to recap our visit to Dingle, you'll see on the map how we've driven around the peninsula, around Sleigh Head, looking at the beehives and other stone remains, and now we're leaving Dingle behind us.